Welcome to the Underground.
Turn me up, bitch!
My Little Underground with Peter A.
It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. Make sure you're listening anywhere you get podcasts, and be sure to follow me on socials at MLUpod. It's part 2 of my finals of 2021. Last week we did the best singles and EPs of the year, and this week I bring my good friend Conor Rooney to talk about some of our favorite full-length albums of 2021. This is also the last episode of My Little Underground for 2021. We'll be back in January, talk about some of the great things coming in 2022. So right now, sit back, relax, sip some tea, as me and Conor do our finals of 2021, talking about the best full-length albums of the year. Enjoy! Ready to grade these finals?
Yeah. I've got my last minute change wasn't like one of the albums I had. I was like, you know what? I'm scrapping it. I hope it isn't one that we might overlap on this one. We've talked about it, but we'll see. So,
all right, we're doing it. Best albums 2021. Let's go, Conor. You always go first.
Okay. So the first album I wanted to talk about it came out pretty recently. It's the Courtney Barnett album. Things take time. I hope here I'm not kicking it off and taking one of your albums here, but it is something that I've been looking forward to for a while, and I like how this album is sort of in a way a return to form. I thought it was reminiscent of her earlier albums, like the album that Avant-Gardner appears on. It was I wouldn't say a slow burn, but it was definitely, it took it down a few more notches. I mean, like the last album with City Looks Pretty, that, sort of continued in the same vein as Sometimes I Sit and Think, Sometimes I Just Sit. More high energy. This one was definitely like kind of like a lazy river. It was calm, it was sweet, and I really enjoyed it. I thought there were some really standout tracks. For example, I had If I Don't Hear From You. That was a really standout one, and Write a List of Things to Look Forward to. Write a List of Things to Look Forward to was also kind of one of the more high energy songs on the album, but it was just a sweet, joyful album, and I thought I think it's one of her best, to be honest. Although I like all her stuff.
Yeah, the last like 4 or 5 episodes of My Little Underground, I talked about this album, so I didn't put it on my list today. It's on my list of my, my entire best of year, whatever. It's on there, but I didn't not talk about it today. But yes, it is. It does remind me of Avant-Gardner a lot, and because her last album, she was touring like crazy, so it's very like live, and you have the Breeders on it too, so it's very just colorful and just rocking. But she recorded this in isolation, so you feel that it's very isolating, and it's very moody and focused and subtle and simple, and I absolutely love it. I can't wait to see it in the flesh. We should go to that Radio City show. The tickets aren't crazy, they're not insane, but Courtney, she's a hot act, and I don't know if she'll sell out completely, but she'll fill it up. I think maybe she'll sell out. I don't know. But yeah, love that album to death. It's great. It's beautiful. Yeah. First on my list, it's an album of a similar vein to Courtney, but different in execution, even more stripped back. I'm talking about Shannon Lay's Geist. I've talked about this album a lot on the show. Shannon Lay was on My Little Underground recently, so go back and listen to that. Now, this Geist album, it is multi-dimensional, thoughtful folk. Very minimal approach to arrangements, but it's not just Shannon with the acoustic guitar strumming away. It's a lot more exciting and riveting than that. She has a lot of poetic, lively lyrics that just really bring the emotions out of you, especially Awaken and Allow. When she put out this song first, along with the title track Geist, and it's a whole 7-minute video on YouTube, I was floored. I just stopped everything, and I listened to everything she said, and it's one of the most powerful songs I heard all year. Like, all the lyrics are just about this fear of complacency and just not taking a chance on to the unknown. Whatever new endeavor you're doing, it's just like listening to it. Like when I was talking to Shannon Lay about it, you know, I was touched by just the arrangement, just the music of it. But she's very focused on lyrics. And when I was listening to the song over and over again, I really got to know the lyrics of the song. And I told Shannon that. She's like, yeah, wow, I'm glad you see that and everything. I'm glad it's touching you that way. But it really is. It's very touching. It's just fucking beautiful.
Yeah, no, I actually heard Shannon Lay pretty recently on WFMU. I was driving home and I was listening and I heard it and I was like, I'm not the most familiar with Shannon Lay, but I heard this and I'm like, oh my God, that's really good. So I sort of pulled over and I Shazammed it and I'm like, oh, this is I don't think I need to Shazam it. It just WFMU has it right there. But it really, I was like, wow, this is really good to listen to the album. And I think it's sort of a band that I want to see live now that we're doing more shows and we're going out more. So I have to give that another listen. The next album that I wanted to talk about was Gustaf's album.
Oh.
I think it's Ego Slobs for audio. It's
audio drag for Ego Slobs.
Audio drag for Ego Slobs. Yeah.
Yep.
I loved that album. I heard it. Again, this came out pretty recently, I think within the past few months, I think October, around that time. And I immediately thought of like an early 2000s, like New York City garage band. That's sort of like, what they're channeling. Also, like the Kills and like 70s post-punk, but they're doing it in sort of a way where, I know a lot of bands have done that, but I think Gustaf are doing it in a very stripped back and very, very direct way. They're not really trying to add anything. They're doing it well. I think they're doing it really well. And I'd say some of the standout tracks are like the first one, which is Mine. This gave me a very strong Kills vibe, maybe even The Fall, like an 1980s The Fall era sort of vibe. And and all of the members of Gustaf have been doing things for a long time. I mean, I believe at least one of them was in Shark Muffin, or maybe
Tara. Yeah, Tara's in Shark Muffin. Yep.
Yeah, so I know they're all incredibly accomplished musicians, and I only saw them one time. I want to now see them again, but they're really coming into their own, and they have such a fun live show. So they're definitely, this album and their live shows are definitely things to keep on your radar and look out for next time they're doing a show. And they also just toured with, I guess, spoiler, they just toured with Idols, a band that I have on this list as well. They just did a European tour with them, which is huge. That's a huge tour for them. Oh my God. But it seems like Idols and Gustaf, that seems like a pretty nice pairing. So I'm really happy they did that. And it's a really great album. It was Mine, Dog, and Cruel, I think, were the most standout tracks on that album. And I listened to it as I was walking uptown here, and it's a great walking album as well.
Yeah, it is a great walking album. I really like Best Behavior on that album, and it's on my list. It's on my best of list, my top 30. But I'm not talking about it today. But I'm glad you brought it up. And again, I don't know how you feel about the whole post-punk thing. There's a lot of bands that are doing kind of what Gustaf is doing, but not as interesting, and it's just kind of just nothing, nothing that stands out as far as like a song is concerned. But like Gustaf is like trying to make interesting music and creating this, New York City urban aesthetic that's very angsty, but we're still trying to make good songs. That's the whole thing that I get from a Gustaf. So next on my list, 2 LA artists in a row, Shannon Lay and now Dummy. Their debut album, Mandatory Enjoyment, and this is a culmination of their 2 phenomenal EPs that they put out in 2020. And this album sounds like the audio version of Rainbow Road from Mario Kart. If you're familiar with it, like, the map, it just takes a lot of unpredictable twists and turns, and it's very colorful. And that's exactly how I would describe Dummy, especially Final Weapon, which sounds like a video game level. It's a lot of forward momentum, and if you're familiar with like Stereolab, Broadcast, stuff like that, you're really gonna like this. And there's just a lot happening. There's a lot of different types of instrumentation going on. Just you're taken on a ride, and your patience is tested, but you're rewarded. It's it's very catchy too. Like it's very experimental and strange and almost like, you know, aggressively pushing away from the mainstream, but actually wants you to enjoy it and listen to it a bunch of times because it's catchy and it's hypnotic, but it's also very out of this world.
I think what I love, how you kick that off and you described it like the Rainbow Road. You know, like I honestly, I'm like, even if no one's ever heard this band before, they hear that and they would immediately get it. Like just that's I mean, it just sounds like a lot of fun. So that's definitely something I have to check out. And I'm going to go to an LA band as well here. I loved the Marias album. This was, I believe, not their debut, but I think they're calling it a debut. So the album is Cinema, came out this year. And I just think this is a really slick, well-produced, honestly, pop record. I mean, it's a pop record. It's just done, in their sort of, their style, which is really hard to describe. It's like a jazz lounge. It's very smoky. It's very cool and laid back, but it's they've got some serious hooks on there. I mean, like, for example, Just a Feeling is incredible, and one of the singles, Hush has an incredible, I think honestly their rhythm section is something to be like applauded, because really they just have like the strongest drummer, and the bass, you know, the bass and the synths and everything just kind of comes together in a really nice mosaic. Plus the lead singer's vocals are just like really silky smooth, and they're just, it's again like a really cool laid back style, which I love. And Little by Little, Heavy, Un Millón, and To Say Hello. Also, I want to say that the Marias are nominated for a Grammy.
Really?
Yeah, for best non-classical.
Interesting.
Which,
wow.
Yeah, I was honestly thrilled when I saw that, because I know I've been listening to them for a few years. I didn't know that they were getting as big as they were, and I'm really happy they're getting the recognition, because they've been killing it for a long time. So the Marias, Cinema is on my list as well.
If you like Barry, I think you'll like the Marias. Like generally speaking, it's you know, it's very loungy, but it's very enticing, and it's very catchy, and it's groovy. You know, it can sit in the background, but it's not to be ignored, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Going into a very experimental realm, Nala Sinephro, her latest album, Space 1.8. It is atmospheric, jazzy, but atmospheric in the way like it's literally sounds like outer space. You know, it sounds like astronauts made this. It is not of planet Earth at all. It's it takes a lot of challenges, and you know, just like the Dummy album, it's just very unpredictable. There's a lot of synths with some gorgeous harp arrangements, with some brass, some field recording stuff. Like there's bird chirping, there's crickets. It sounds like it was made outside. And especially like Space One, like introducing this album is just wow. And it puts you in a very meditative and healing space. It's like sipping tea. And man, it's a really beautiful album. It's not catchy, it's not a pop record, but there's something about it that's just beautiful and gorgeous, and it's an absolute must listen. And there are songs where it's 1 minute, and then like the album closer is like 18 minutes long, but it's a very interesting listen. It's very hard to do something like that. There's a lot of artists that can make a quote unquote long song, but just kind of meander 4 minutes in. But you know, a good record like this, it's 8 minutes in, you want more. It's gorgeous stuff. I love it.
I always love albums like that, ones that kind of take a really experimental road, but they make it interesting the entire time, because I love experimental. We love experimental music, but there's a lot of experimental music that is cool for a few minutes, and you're like, okay, well, I get it. You know, I get it. But you know, it sounds like that is consistently challenging you and keeping you kind of on your toes. And it just sounds like it's gorgeous, you know, which is something that I don't hear in many albums.
It's just good music, really. You know, because there's experimental to be experimental, just because, but like the music's terrible. But you know, there's pop songs that are not exactly like the most innovative or whatever creative thing, but is the song good? Yeah, probably. You know.
Yeah. And Speaking of pop songs that are good, and maybe I shouldn't be describing this band as a pop band because they're definitely not. But I mentioned Idols before, and Idols is another one on my list. They just put out an album called Crawler just a few weeks ago. I think like honestly less than a month ago, about a month ago now. And I had no idea this was coming. I had no idea I was putting out a new album. Maybe I just missed it. But I think it's their most stripped back and sort of most brooding album yet. I mean, because Ultramano that came out last year was just like a firestorm of punk song after punk song. It was just like high energy, high insane shit. This sort of builds up to that. It's more of a slow burn, but there's definitely darker elements on this album. I mean, for example, the song, The Wheel or Car Crash. I mean, these songs just kind of sound like, for example, Car Crash kind of sounds like that. It's a car crash. It just sounds like it's brooding. It's very ominous. Joe's vocals are very just as angry as ever. And the album really is kind of an exploration of how they became to be as a band, like sort of their roots. And it's honestly, I think it's their most interesting album yet. And there's definitely elements of like shoegaze on here, or like industrial shoegaze. I'm talking like, I know I've mentioned them 100 times before, but like A Place to Bury Strangers, there's elements of early A Place to Bury Strangers here on this album, especially with the drums. And I know that they're actually friends. I know that they tour together, so
Yeah.
elements of that band in there. And I think that's what also hooks me into it. But yeah, I mean, like the New Sensation is like something you could dance to it. It's a fantastic song, kind of teeters on pop song, but it's angry. You'd have no idea that you wouldn't describe it really as a pop song, but it's fun, but it's also incredibly angry at the same time. And I think it's and honestly an evolution of their sound. And I'm really stoked to see it live if I ever get to. So Idols, Crawler is my next album.
So now we're gonna go to the opposite of Nala Sinephro as far as experimentation is concerned. My next album is it's pretty much a pop album, but it has a lot of depth to it. Alicia Walter. I am Alicia. Alicia is a former guest on the show, and it's one of my favorite interviews I did all year. Go listen to that. Alicia is so much fun to talk to. This is her debut solo album, and the whole thing about this album is just becoming your best self, becoming who you are, and simultaneously, Alicia is becoming that. She's finding herself as a solo artist, and we've been talking about this offline, Carter, but like, certain artists have great voices but very boring arrangements, and music in general. But Alicia is like a double whammy: beautiful voice and a really strong sense of how songs should come together. Just like Sir Baby Girl, beautiful voice, but a really sharp sense of how songs should be arranged. And songs like Suit Yourself, it's just a big anthem about being yourself, but not being cheesy. And this song is one of the best vocal arrangements I've heard all year. It's stunning, and the message behind the song is very powerful. And every time Alicia tweets something that's the least bit inspirational, I always reply saying "Suit Yourself." I think she's either annoyed or appreciates the fact that I use that song as a metaphor for just everything. And she does not take herself too seriously. She has a lot of humorous moments on here, especially talking to talking to myself. She's literally talking to herself on the song. It's hilarious, and the song is beautiful. It's one of the coolest songs I've heard all year. Go listen to Alicia Walter. Do yourself a favor. If you want to feel good about yourself, go listen to that album.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Also brought up like the arrangements of an artist, like of a song, because
I really care about that stuff.
Yeah, and I never knew. Something that was really hard to pin down when I was younger was like, I like this song. I'm not really sure why I like this song. And oftentimes I think a lot of it comes down to just the arrangement of a song. An artist, someone could be terrible at singing, quote unquote terrible, but if the arrangements are nice, you've got me. Like that's really it. It's all I want is a good song. And speaking of arrangements, then my number one album this year, Japanese Breakfast, Jubilee. I know I said this in the midterms, but it really grew on me. And I loved it then, and I love it even more now. I mean, Jubilee is really, I honestly think, her best album. The arrangements are gorgeous. Also, two-time Grammy-nominated artist, which now is insane to hear.
Insane.
That's crazy. Because going from small DIY clubs in Philly and Brooklyn and around the country to like Brooklyn Steel to putting out a book, which is an incredible book, and also having a TV show now based on your life, which it's
For real?
well, they're turning Crying in H-Barn into a TV show.
Wow. Now I
Yeah.
got to read the book too.
Yeah, well, I have it. I'll loan it to you. Just I haven't. I've read it now twice. It's honestly a really great book, and Jubilee, I think, has elements of that book in it because she's dealing with the death of her mother, who died about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6. And lyrically, I think the album is incredibly mature and sad, but also that's only a part of it, because I think just like the album's title, like Jubilee, there's a lot of celebratory moments on it, like Paprika, I think is one of the opening tracks on there. It's just a celebration. It's almost like the audio version of confetti being blown everywhere. Like it's really just such a fun song. And Paprika, Posing for Cars, one of the last tracks, is a kind of a slow burn, but like this momentous, gorgeous epiphany of a song. Slide Tackle is great. There's also a shoegazy kind of track here, which is Sit. And
I like that song.
Sit is great. Yeah, I never really thought that I would say Japanese Breakfast did like a shoegazy kind of track, but here we are. And again, Paprika, I said Slide Tackle, and Tactics, I think that's also another great track. So I think she's had an incredible year. I think she's really grown into an artist that like she's fully grown into, like, what I guess she was meant to be. Like, this really feels like this was an inevitability. This album is incredible. The arrangements are gorgeous, and she's an incredible songwriter and a singer. Her band is really, really tight. So yeah, doing Japanese Breakfast Jubilee is my top album of the year.
The Muslims, fuck your fucking fascists. One of the best album titles of the year, along with Gustaf's audio drag for Ego Slobs. This album is a fuck you to white supremacy. It's really that simple. Especially songs like Crotch Pop a Cop. I'm not sure what a crotch pop is. It sounds like a wrestling maneuver, but I love that. They're just sick of cops assaulting people, so they want to assault cops. I get it. That's cool. Like Ice-T's Cop Killer. I get it. And Illegals. It's an album that can make Caucasians feel very uncomfortable, and I like that. Illegals kind of takes it spins the immigration rhetoric, basically saying like white people are illegal because colonialism, you don't really belong here because you just took everything and made it yours. So yeah, so fuck you. That's the whole album is a fuck you. I love it. It's oh man, it's so good. Yeah. This album is like a punk album in its essence, not just like sonically, but it's a punk album. That's a lot of bands that get the punk label or put on a upper echelon of punk, but they don't really take a stand on anything, and they just kind of give a lot of platitudes and just they walk the surface and they preach to the choir and they don't really do anything. But Muslims, they're like, we want shit to change, and this is how it should change. You know what I mean? Like, this is, if you want like a raw punk album, the Muslims are it. That's it.
Yeah, there's one of the songs on that album, because he sent it to me pretty recently. It's like the last one is John McCain's Ghost sneaks into the White House, and
hilarious.
To it. Yeah, but that was great. And like I listened to that album when you sent it to me, and it's just got that high energy. I mean, when you say it's like a punk album, it's really like a punk. If there's any punk album that's released this year, I think it's that one. It's really just like punk in its truest form. And I think I do like that the album cover is punching not maybe John Lydon of the Sex Pistols, who's a complete prick, complete asshole. So awesome. Yeah, but yeah, that was I like that album too. Yeah.
You have any more albums? I know you say you had 6.
I had 6. I took one off today. It was the Fruit Bats. I do love that album, the Fruit Bats, the Pet Parade, but it didn't really fit with kind of the mood this year. It's a very folksy folk rock album, and it was great, but it would make my top 10, but not my top.
Okay, yeah. All right. I have one more album, and it's Homeboy, Sandman, and Two Hungry Bros, Senile Chef. And Two Hungry Bros is a longtime collaborator with Homeboy Sandman. If you're familiar with the Triple Fat Lice EP he did with A$AP Rock, Two Hungry Bros have some production credits on there, especially one of my favorite songs on that, Pizza and Burgers. And this album, a lot of Homeboy Sandman's recent work, especially on his EP put out this year. He's been a very busy man in 2021. He put out an EP that was fully produced by A$AP Rock, Anelitu, and on there he's a vegan. So he has a song called No Beef, samples Slick Rick. He talks about the pros of being vegan and how meat is bad for you and all that stuff. On this album, he's kind of worshiping nature, right? So he has a song called Sun Worship, where he's literally worshiping the sun. And he's really trying to get acquainted with the gas giant. And here in New York, winter is coming and the sun is out less. And it's all about, him telling people, go outside, enjoy the beach. He doesn't like to wear sun, he's a person of color. So maybe he feels like he doesn't need to wear sun lotion, but you still need to wear, sunblock. Really, you should. But I get his sentiment behind it because I love the sun. I love breakfast. I love waking up in the morning. I like going outside in the summertime. I like the warm weather. So if you're that type of person, this is a song for you. And then there's Animal Kingdom. There's a lot of like animal metaphors. It's really hilarious. He talks about like drug addiction and how it's like a monkey on your back, and how if you're seen hanging with a pig, people might think you're a rat. And if you can put that together, it's just hysterical. Homeboy Sandman is, I think he's one of my favorite rappers now and one of the most exciting artists of 2021 because he's had a multitude of great releases. He just dropped a new single like a few weeks ago, Queens Boulevard Part 2. And he had that single with A$AP Rock, Ask Anyone, with that was tributing MF Doom. And then he had the EP Anelitu, and he has a whole lot of other shit that's not even on streaming services that's just out of this world. So big up to Homeboy Sandman.
Yeah, I gotta listen to that. I mean, just the fitting in that many animal metaphors into a song. I mean, just kind of sounds, like really difficult to do. Also, so yeah, there's been so much music that's come out this year, and it's really hard to kind of fit everything into a 5 or 6 top albums of the year. So something I definitely think I want to do more in 2022 is participate more in Bandcamp Friday. I got to do that more because I love Bandcamp Friday. I always miss it. Although I don't know why everyone talks about it, but I gotta get more on Bandcamp Friday and just support more independent music and independent. I want to buy more physical records and physical music. So that's my resolution at least.
Or just use Bandcamp. Just normalize listening to music outside of the big 3 or 4 or 5 or how many streaming services are out there. Just normalize listening to, again, physical media, or just having music stored on your phone that you don't need the internet or any kind of subscription service to listen to. Any kind of platform that directly supports an artist, or going to a show and like seeing the artist in person. That's another great way to hear music. If we can do if we want to do a true wrap of all the music I listen to, like a small percentage of it is Spotify. But again, 2021 has been a great year for music, and I say that every year because I guess I'm just optimistic like that. But this is one of my favorite shows of the year to do, to kind of recap everything and just discuss all the great music that came out this year. And Connor, thank you so much for coming on again and whipping out the red pen and grading all of our finals like we do. I know you just got your booster shot, so the side effects are probably going to kick in soon. So I think it's best to wrap it all up, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks for having me. I was thinking today, this is must be, we've been doing this for several years now. I think at least 3 or 4. So thank you again for inviting me on and having me do this. And I really love doing it. And it also keeps me sharp in thinking about the music that's come out this year. Really kind of gives me something to I have to look back and just think, oh, what were the top albums this year? What did I hear? Because it's really easy to just forget that something came out. So it's always a great time, kind of wrapping everything up and coming up with a top 5 or 6. So thanks again. I mean, this is a lot of fun, and 2022, can't believe I'm saying that. But
sounds weird. 2022 sounds like the Jetsons. 2022. It's weird. It's so weird.
Here. Yeah. I mean, I almost graduated high school a while ago, so pretty soon I'm at don't want to think about how long I've been out of high school. So
Yeah.
I'll just I feel old. But
Yeah.
no, it's always a lot of fun. And here's to going to more shows. I definitely
Yeah.
I think that's something I want to. My other resolution is to go to more shows locally, not like big Brooklyn Steel big shows, but like smaller independent shows. And yeah, looking forward to that too.
Yeah. Same here. And get boosted, everybody, so we can actually go to concerts. All right.
Yes.
All right.